The wind was screaming like a living thing when Danny Marsh realized he was going to die. He had been a wildlife biologist for 12 years, and he had seen plenty of storms in his time working along the Louisiana coast. He had weathered Category 3 hurricanes and tropical storms that flooded entire towns. But Hurricane Meridian was something different. The meteorologists were calling it a Category 6, a classification that had not existed until this very storm forced them to create it. The winds were tearing apart everything in their path, and Danny was right in the middle of it. His truck was gone. A piece of debris the size of a refrigerator had smashed through the engine block 20 minutes ago, sending the vehicle spinning into a ditch. Danny had barely escaped before the whole thing was picked up by the wind and thrown into the trees. Now he was running through the abandoned streets of a small town that had been evacuated 3 days earlier. Everyone else had left. Danny had stayed behind to rescue animals from a wildlife sanctuary that nobody else seemed to care about. He had saved 17 birds, 4 foxes, and a young alligator before the storm became too dangerous. He had loaded them into his truck and tried to drive north. That plan had failed. The rain was coming down so hard that Danny could barely see 10 feet in front of him. The water was already up to his knees and it was rising fast. He needed shelter, and he needed it now. The buildings around him were old and wooden, and he could hear them groaning under the force of the wind. None of them would survive the night, and neither would he if he stayed inside one. Danny pushed forward, fighting against the wind with every step. His muscles burned and his lungs ached, but he kept moving. He had not survived 34 years on this planet just to give up now. There had to be something, some structure strong enough to protect him from this nightmare. That was when he saw it. The building was half hidden behind a wall of overgrown trees and tangled vines. It looked like an old research station, the kind the government had built all over the country during the Cold War. Most of it was falling apart, but Danny noticed something else. There was a concrete structure at the base of the main building, a bunker entrance that looked far more solid than anything else in the area. Danny ran toward it. The wind tried to push him back, but he lowered his head and forced himself forward. When he reached the bunker door, he found it was made of heavy steel, covered in rust but still intact. There was a wheel lock on the front like something from an old submarine. Danny grabbed it with both hands and pulled. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the wheel began to turn and the door swung open with a groan of ancient hinges. Danny threw himself inside and pulled the door shut behind him. The sound of the storm became muffled, distant, like a bad dream fading away. He stood in the darkness, breathing hard, his heart pounding in his chest. He was alive. Somehow, he was still alive. It took a few seconds for his eyes to adjust to the darkness. The bunker was larger than he had expected, a long corridor that stretched deep underground. Emergency lights flickered along the walls, casting a dim blue glow over everything. The air was cold and stale, but it was air, and Danny was grateful for it. He started walking deeper into the bunker, looking for anything useful. There had to be supplies down here, maybe old military rations or medical equipment. The place looked like it had been abandoned for decades, but someone had kept the power running. The lights were still working, and Danny could hear the hum of machinery somewhere in the distance. The further he walked, the stranger things became. The walls were covered in symbols he did not recognize, patterns that seemed almost organic in their design. They glowed faintly with the same blue light as the emergency lamps, but there was something different about them. They looked alive somehow, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. Danny told himself it was just old military technology, something experimental that the government had been working on before they shut this place down. But deep in his gut, he knew that was not true. He had seen a lot of strange things in his life, but nothing like this. This was something else entirely. He reached the end of the corridor and found himself standing in a large circular room. The ceiling was high, at least 30 feet above his head, and the walls were covered in more of those glowing symbols. In the center of the room, there was a platform surrounded by a shimmering field of light. It looked like a cage made of pure energy, and inside the cage there was something. Danny froze. His brain tried to make sense of what he was seeing, but it refused to cooperate. The thing inside the cage was not human. It was tall and thin, with gray-blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. It had 4 arms, 2 on each side, and its head was elongated, with large dark eyes that reflected the blue glow of the symbols on the walls. It was wearing some kind of suit, torn and faded, and it was lying on the floor of the cage like it had been there for a very long time. Danny wanted to run. Every instinct in his body was telling him to turn around and take his chances with the hurricane. But before he could move, something happened. A voice appeared in his mind, not through his ears, but directly inside his head, as if someone was speaking from within his own thoughts. Please do not be afraid. Danny stumbled backward, his back hitting the wall. The voice was weak and tired, barely more than a whisper, but it was unmistakably real. I have been alone for so long. Please do not leave. The creature in the cage lifted its head slowly, and those large dark eyes fixed on Danny with an expression he recognized instantly. It was not anger or hunger or anything threatening. It was hope, pure, desperate hope. Danny stood there, his heart racing, his mind spinning. Outside, the hurricane was tearing the world apart. Inside, something that should not exist was begging him to stay. He had no idea what was happening, but he knew one thing for certain. This night was far from over. Danny did not move for a long time. He stood with his back pressed against the cold wall of the bunker, staring at the creature inside the energy cage. His mind was racing with 1,000 questions, but his mouth refused to form any words. This was impossible. Aliens were not real. They were something from movies and books, not something you found in an old bunker during a hurricane. But the creature was there, looking at him with those large dark eyes, and the voice in his head was still echoing softly. I know this is strange for you. I am sorry. I did not mean to frighten you. Danny swallowed hard. His throat was dry and his hands were shaking. But he was a scientist, and scientists did not run away from things they did not understand. They studied them. They asked questions. They tried to learn. What are you? Danny asked. His voice came out rough and unsteady, but he managed to get the words out. The creature shifted slightly inside the cage. Its movements were slow and weak, like it was using the last of its strength just to stay conscious. My name is, my people come from a world very far from here, in a part of the galaxy your kind has never seen. I crashed on your planet many of your years ago. Your government found me and brought me to this place. They wanted to study me. They kept me in this cage and they never let me go. Danny listened, his fear slowly giving way to something else, curiosity. He took a small step forward, then another, until he was standing just a few feet from the edge of the energy field. How long have you been here? He asked. His eyes closed for a moment, and when they opened again, there was a deep sadness in them. By your calendar, I believe it has been 67 years. The humans who kept me here left a long time ago. They abandoned this place and forgot about me. But the machines kept running and the cage kept holding me. I have been alone ever since. Danny felt something twist in his chest. 67 years. This creature had been trapped in this bunker, alone in the dark, for more than twice as long as Danny had been alive. The thought was almost too terrible to comprehend. Why did they leave you here? Danny asked. Why did they not take you with them or let you go? I do not know. Perhaps they were afraid. Perhaps they simply did not care. Your kind is strange to me. Some of you are cruel and some of you are kind. I have seen both during my time on this world. The bunker shook suddenly, and Danny grabbed the wall to steady himself. The hurricane was still raging outside, and even this deep underground, he could feel its power. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the lights flickered for a moment before stabilizing. Looked up at the ceiling with worry in their eyes. The storm is damaging the power systems. The machines that keep this cage active are very old. If they fail, the cage will shut down. Danny frowned. Is that not a good thing? If the cage shuts down, you will be free. Shook their head slowly. The cage is not just a prison. It also protects me. Your world's atmosphere is different from mine. Without the cage filtering the air, I cannot breathe it safely. If the cage fails, I will die within minutes. Danny stared at the creature, trying to process what he was hearing. The cage was keeping prisoner, but it was also keeping them alive. It was a cruel irony, and Danny could see the weight of it in his tired eyes. There must be something I can do, Danny said. Some way to fix the power systems or find you another way to breathe. Looked at him with surprise. You would help me? You do not even know me. I am not of your kind. Why would you risk yourself for a stranger? Danny thought about the question. It was a fair one. He had every reason to be afraid, every reason to walk away and focus on his own survival, but something inside him refused to accept that option. I am a biologist, Danny said. I have spent my whole life trying to protect living things. Birds, foxes, alligators, whatever needs help. I do not care if you are from another planet. You are alive and you are suffering. That is all I need to know. Stared at him for a long moment. Then something happened that Danny did not expect. The creature smiled. It was a strange smile, not quite human but unmistakably genuine. Your kind is more remarkable than my people ever realized. We watched your world from afar and saw only violence and chaos. But you are different. You are something special. Before Danny could respond, the bunker shook again, harder this time. One of the lights on the ceiling exploded in a shower of sparks, and the hum of the machinery grew louder and more uneven. The power systems are failing faster than I expected. I do not think they can be repaired in time. Danny looked around the room, searching for anything that might help. His eyes landed on a control panel near the edge of the energy cage. It was covered in dust and grime, but the lights on its surface were still blinking. "What about that?" Danny asked, pointing at the panel. "Can I use that to do something?" Followed his gaze and nodded slowly. "That panel controls the cage. You could use it to shut down the containment field. But if you do that, I will be exposed to your atmosphere. I will die unless you can find a way to help me breathe." Danny thought fast. He had an emergency oxygen mask in his pack, the kind he carried for situations where air quality might be dangerous. It was not much, but it was something. "I have a mask," Danny said. "It is not perfect, but it might give you enough time for us to figure something out." Looked at him with those large dark eyes, and Danny saw something new in them. It was not just hope anymore. It was trust. "You would share your own air with me, even though it might mean your own death." Danny walked toward the control panel and started wiping away the dust. "I guess we will find out together." The water came faster than Danny expected. He heard it first, a rushing sound echoing down the corridor behind him. Then he saw it, a wave of dark water pouring into the circular room, spreading across the floor like something alive. The hurricane had breached the bunker's outer structure, and now the flood was coming for both of them. Danny looked at the control panel in front of him. The lights were blinking faster now, some of them turning red. The power systems were failing, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. He was not an engineer. He was a biologist who spent his days studying birds and counting fish. He had no idea how to repair alien technology that was older than he was. "There is no time." His voice was calm, but Danny could hear the fear beneath it. "The machines will fail within minutes. When they do, the cage will shut down and I will be exposed." Danny turned to look at the creature. Was lying on the floor of the cage, too weak to stand. Their skin had lost some of its color, turning from gray-blue to a pale shade that looked almost white. They were dying, and they both knew it. "There has to be something," Danny said. "Some other option." Shook their head slowly. "There is only one option. You can open the cage and release me. I will die from exposure, but at least I will die free. Or you can leave me here and the cage will fail on its own. Either way, my time is ending." Danny felt anger rise in his chest. It was not fair. None of this was fair. This creature had been trapped in this bunker for nearly 70 years, forgotten by everyone, left to rot in the darkness. And now, just when someone had finally found them, they were going to die anyway. "No," Danny said. The word came out hard and sharp. "I did not come all this way just to watch you die." He reached into his pack and pulled out his emergency oxygen mask. It was a small device, designed to filter air in smoky or toxic environments. It was not meant for long-term use, but it was all he had. Watched him with confusion in their eyes. "What are you doing?" "I am going to open the cage," Danny said. "And when I do, I am going to give you this mask. It will filter the air and help you breathe. It might not be perfect, but it will buy us time." His eyes widened. "But that mask is for you. If you give it to me, you will have nothing to protect yourself." Danny shrugged. "Then I guess we will both have to work fast." He did not give himself time to think about what he was doing. If he thought about it too much, he might change his mind. Instead, he turned back to the control panel and started pressing buttons. Most of them did nothing, but eventually he found one that made the energy field flicker. "Before you do this," said, "there is something you must know, something important." Danny paused, his finger hovering over the button. "My people are not explorers. We are refugees. We fled our home world because of a great empire called the Dominion. They have been conquering and enslaving species across the galaxy for thousands of years. When my ship crashed here, I sent a distress signal before I was captured. If the Dominion ever learns that I am alive on this world, they will come. They will find your planet and they will take everything." Danny stood there, processing what had just told him. It was a lot to absorb. An evil empire that conquered galaxies. A distress signal that might bring danger to Earth. The possibility that saving this one creature could put his entire species at risk. But then Danny thought about something else. He thought about lying in that cage, alone and forgotten, waiting to die. He thought about all the years of suffering, all the years of darkness, all the years of hoping that someone would come. "Let me ask you something," Danny said. "If I leave you in that cage, you will die. If I release you, there might be danger someday. Maybe tomorrow, maybe in 100 years, maybe never. But you are asking me to let you die right now to protect myself from something that might not even happen." Was silent. "That is not who I am," Danny said. "I cannot do that. I will not do that." He pressed the button. The energy field flickered once, twice, and then disappeared completely. Collapsed to the floor, gasping and choking as Earth's atmosphere flooded their lungs. Their body convulsed, and a terrible sound came from their throat, a sound of pure agony. Danny moved without thinking. He ran to side, dropped to his knees in the rising water and pressed the oxygen mask to their face. The creature's eyes were wide with panic, their forearms flailing weakly, but Danny held them steady. "Breathe," Danny said. "Just breathe. I have got you. I'm not going anywhere." Slowly, painfully, breathing began to stabilize. The mask was working, filtering the air just enough to keep them alive. Their bodies stopped convulsing, and their eyes focused on Danny's face. "You saved me." His voice was barely a whisper in Danny's mind. "You risked everything to save me." Danny smiled. Even though he was kneeling in cold water with a hurricane raging above his head and an alien in his arms. "That is what humans do," he said. "We take care of each other, even when it does not make sense." Looked at him with an expression Danny had never seen before. It was wonder, pure and complete. "In all my centuries of life, I have traveled to many worlds and met many species. I have never encountered anything like you. Your people are something special, Danny Marsh. The galaxy does not know it yet, but it will. Someday, it will." The water was rising higher now, past Danny's waist. They needed to move. "Can you walk?" Danny asked. Tried to stand, but their legs buckled beneath them. Danny caught them before they fell. "I am too weak. You should leave me here. Save yourself." Danny put his arm around his shoulder and started pulling them toward the corridor. "Not a chance," he said. "We are getting out of here together, both of us." The corridor was filling with water faster than Danny had expected. What had been ankle-deep just minutes ago was now up to his chest, and it was getting harder to move with every step. Was draped over his shoulder, barely conscious, their body heavier than it looked. The oxygen mask was still pressed to their face, but Danny could hear the device struggling, making small clicking sounds that told him it would not last much longer. "Which way?" Voice was faint in Danny's mind, like a radio signal fading in and out. "I do not know," Danny admitted. "I came in through the main entrance, but that is probably flooded by now. Is there another way out?" Was silent for a moment, and Danny felt something strange happening. It was like a gentle pressure in his mind, as if was searching through his thoughts. Then the pressure faded and spoke again. "There is an emergency exit. The humans who built this place included one in case of emergencies. It leads to the surface through a different path. Turn left at the next junction." Danny did as he was told. The water was up to his shoulders now, and he had to hold above the surface to keep the mask from getting wet. His arms were burning and his legs felt like they were made of lead, but he kept moving. Giving up was not an option. As they pushed through the flooded corridor, Danny found himself talking. He was not sure why. Maybe it was to keep himself calm, or maybe it was to keep awake. Either way, the words just came out. "So what is your world like?" Danny asked. "The place you come from." Took a long moment to answer. "It was beautiful once. Green forests that stretched to the horizon, oceans that sparkled like diamonds under 3 suns. My people lived in harmony with the land for thousands of years. Then the Dominion came. They took everything. Our resources, our technology, our freedom. Those of us who survived scattered across the galaxy, looking for new homes. I was one of the first to leave." "I am sorry," Danny said. "That sounds terrible." It was, but I have learned something in my years of traveling. No matter how much darkness exists in the universe, there is always light somewhere. Sometimes it is in the last place you expect to find it. Danny felt's eyes on him, and he understood what they meant. He was the light had found in this dark place, a stranger who had chosen to help when he could have walked away. The corridor opened into a larger chamber, and Danny saw something that made his heart sink. A massive steel beam had collapsed from the ceiling, blocking most of the passage. There was a small gap at the top, just big enough for a person to squeeze through, but it was several feet above the water level. Danny would have to climb. He looked at, "I need to get you through that gap. Can you hold on to me while I climb?" Nodded weakly. "I will try." Danny adjusted his grip on and started climbing. The beam was slippery and covered in debris, and every movement sent pain shooting through his exhausted muscles. But he kept going, one handhold at a time, pulling both of them higher and higher. He was almost at the top when disaster struck. His foot slipped on a wet piece of metal, and he lost his balance. For one terrifying moment, he felt himself falling backward, pulling down with him. Then his hand found a grip, and he stopped himself just in time. Danny hung there, breathing hard, his heart pounding in his chest. "You are remarkable." His voice was filled with something that sounded like awe. "Your body is exhausted, your situation is desperate, and yet you refuse to stop. I have met warriors from a dozen worlds, and none of them had your determination." "I am just stubborn," Danny said with a weak laugh. "My mother always said it was my worst quality." He pulled himself up the last few feet and squeezed through the gap, dragging behind him. On the other side, the water level was lower, only up to his knees. The emergency exit had to be close. They moved through the chamber and into another corridor. This one was narrower, with pipes running along the ceiling and emergency lights flickering every few feet. Danny could feel fresh air somewhere ahead, which meant they were getting closer to the surface. But then something went wrong. His body suddenly went rigid, and a small cry of pain echoed in Danny's mind. "My leg." Danny looked down and saw the problem. His lower leg had gotten caught between two fallen pipes. The metal had twisted during the collapse, creating a trap that was holding them in place. Danny tried to pull the pipes apart, but they would not budge. The metal was too heavy, too firmly wedged together. He needed leverage, but there was nothing around him to use. "Hold on," Danny said. "I'm going to try something." He took a deep breath and plunged underwater. The pipes extended below the surface, and he could see where they were connected. If he could find a weak point, maybe he could break them loose. Danny worked in the darkness, his lungs burning, his fingers searching for any gap or crack that might help. The water was cold and murky, and he could barely see what he was doing. But he kept trying, refusing to give up, refusing to let die trapped in a flooded corridor. Finally, he found it, a joint in the pipe that had rusted almost completely through. Danny grabbed it with both hands and pulled with everything he had. The pipe broke, his leg came free. Danny burst out of the water, gasping for air. His vision was blurry and his whole body was shaking, but he had done it. They were free. He grabbed and kept moving. The corridor ended at a metal door with a wheel lock, just like the one at the main entrance. Danny spun the wheel and pushed the door open. Fresh air hit his face like a blessing. They emerged onto the surface just as the first light of dawn was breaking through the clouds. The hurricane had passed, leaving behind a landscape of destruction. Trees were down everywhere, buildings were torn apart, and debris covered every inch of ground. But they were alive. Danny carried to a sheltered spot beneath a collapsed wall and set them down gently. The oxygen mask was almost empty now, but was still breathing. They had made it. "You saved me." His voice was barely a whisper. "You nearly died for me." Danny sat down beside them, too exhausted to stand. "I told you," he said, "we take care of each other." Reached out with one of their hands and touched Danny's face. It was a gentle touch, almost like a thank you that could not be expressed in words. "There is something I must tell you. Before my ship crashed, I sent a distress signal. My people, the Resistance, received it. They are coming, Danny. They will arrive within days." Danny looked up at the sky, where the clouds were finally starting to clear. "Then I guess we better be ready for them." 3 days passed after the hurricane. Danny had found shelter in the ruins of an old barn about a mile from the bunker. The structure was damaged but still standing, and it provided enough protection from the elements to keep both him and safe. He had managed to find supplies in the wreckage of nearby buildings, including food, water, and medical equipment that helped stabilize condition. The alien was getting stronger. Their skin had regained some of its color, and they could now stand on their own for short periods of time. Danny had modified the oxygen mask using parts from an old air filtration system, creating a more sustainable breathing apparatus. It was not perfect, but it was enough. They spent those 3 days talking, told Danny about the galaxy, about the hundreds of species that lived among the stars, about the beauty and the horror that existed beyond Earth's sky. Danny told about humanity, about its history and its struggles, about its capacity for both great good and terrible evil. Listened to everything with fascination. Your species is so young, said on the second night. You have only been traveling to your own moon for less than a century, and yet you have already learned so much about the universe. You ask questions that older species stopped asking long ago. You dream of things that others have forgotten how to imagine. Danny shrugged. We are curious by nature, we cannot help it. That curiosity will take you far, farther than you can possibly imagine. On the third day, the ship arrived. Danny saw it first, a light in the sky that moved too fast and too smoothly to be any human aircraft. It descended through the clouds and landed in a clearing about half a mile away, making no sound at all. The ship was sleek and silver, shaped like a teardrop, and it was the most beautiful thing Danny had ever seen. Stood up, their eyes fixed on the ship. They came. After all these years, they finally came. Danny helped walk toward the clearing. By the time they arrived, a group of figures had emerged from the ship. They were tall and slender with gray-blue skin and 4 arms. But unlike, they looked healthy and strong, dressed in uniforms that suggested military discipline. One of them stepped forward. She was taller than the others, with marks on her face that might have been scars or decorations. Her eyes swept over the scene, taking in its weakened condition and the human standing beside them. The word echoed in Danny's mind, but it was not directed at him. We thought you were dead. I nearly was. His mental voice was stronger now, filled with emotion. I would be dead if not for this human. He found me, freed me, and saved my life. He risked everything for a stranger he had never met. The tall turned her attention to Danny. He felt her gaze like a physical weight, examining him, evaluating him. I am captain of the resistance. We have been watching your world from afar for many generations. We believed your species to be primitive, violent, and dangerous. Tell me, human, why should I think differently now? Danny felt nervous under her stare, but he did not look away. He had faced a Category 6 hurricane and survived. He had rescued an alien from a flooded bunker. He was not going to be intimidated by a tough question. I'm not going to pretend that humans are perfect, Danny said. We are not. We have done terrible things to each other throughout our history. Wars, slavery, cruelty that I cannot even begin to excuse. But that is not all we are. He paused, gathering his thoughts. After the hurricane, people from all over the country started coming here to help, strangers helping strangers. They did not ask for anything in return. They just saw people in trouble and wanted to make things better. That is also who we are. We are capable of great kindness, great sacrifice, great love. We are not perfect, but we are trying. Every generation we try to be a little bit better than the one before. Captain studied him for a long moment. Then she turned to. Is what he says true? Stepped forward, standing as tall as their weakened body would allow. It is true. I was trapped in that bunker for 67 years. The humans who put me there were cruel and afraid. But this human, Danny Marsh, showed me something I had never seen before. He had every reason to leave me to die. He had every reason to be afraid. Instead, he risked his own life to save mine. He shared his own air with me. He carried me through flooded corridors when I could not walk. He is not unique among his kind. He is simply the first human I was able to truly know. Captain was silent for a long time. The other watched and waited, their expressions unreadable. Finally, the captain spoke again. The Dominion does not know about this world. If they did, they would already be here. We have a choice to make. We can reveal Earth's location and potentially draw the Dominion's attention, or we can keep your world hidden and give your species time to grow. She looked at Danny with new respect in her eyes. Based on what I have seen today, I choose to protect you. The Resistance will watch over your world from the shadows. We will not interfere with your development, but we will ensure that the Dominion does not find you. When you are ready to join the galactic community, we will be there to welcome you. Danny felt a wave of relief wash over him. Thank you, he said. That means more than I can express. Captain nodded, then she turned to. Will you return with us? You have been away from our people for so long. Looked at the ship, then at Danny, then at the sky above. No, I wish to stay here. This world has become my home in many ways, and I believe I can serve our cause better by remaining. I will watch over these humans and learn more about them. When the time comes, I will help prepare them for what awaits among the stars." The captain considered this for a moment, then nodded in acceptance. "Very well, we will leave you supplies and equipment. You will not be alone again." They returned to their ship, leaving behind crates of supplies and a communication device that would allow to contact them. As the silver vessel rose into the sky and disappeared among the clouds, Danny stood beside and watched it go. "So what happens now?" Danny asked. Turned to look at him, and there was warmth in those large dark eyes. "Now we begin. There is much work to be done and your species has a long journey ahead, but I believe in you, Danny Marsh. I believe in all of humanity. You showed me that the universe is not as dark as I thought. There is light out there, even in the most unexpected places." Danny smiled. "Then I guess we better get started." Smiled back, and together they walked toward the rising sun. Behind them, the wreckage of the hurricane was already being cleared away. People were helping each other, rebuilding, moving forward. That was what humans did. They endured, they adapted, and they never stopped hopping for something better. The galaxy did not know about Earth yet, but someday it would. And when that day came, humanity would be ready. Not because they were the strongest but because they had something that no empire could ever conquer. They had each other,